Hello and welcome back to Farawa. Chapter 5, The Old Church and the Wishing Well. I took a morning walk around the church grounds, but not actually inside the church, which I regret a bit now as I am more interested in building architecture since my college class this past year. But the area around was beautiful to explore, with old graves and new ones, as well as flowers and just very pretty maintained grounds. To finish my morning out, I continued about the neighborhood and listened to the church bells that went on for several minutes. I had never heard any like it. Then we had some breakfast in the garden, after which my mom and I hung the laundry to dry. We just did the laundry, hung it up, and in this very nice garden of the people that we were staying at. And I like this kind of line, it's fun. You can fit a lot of stuff on it, so that is something I'll consider in my future. My mom really likes this, and I do too. It's very clever. Now we are heading to a very small village, which is not much more than a few houses, a church, and a restaurant, The Perch, as the sign indicates. Of course, there is probably more there that we did not see, but that is what we saw of the village of Binsey that day. Some of my ancestors lived in this village for a very long time, and are in fact buried in and around the church. We even glimpsed the house that the last one lived in before the family left the hamlet. This is the church of Saint Margaret of Antioch, and according to the Osny benefice, Christians have worshipped on this site for more than 1,000 years. It is indeed a lovely spot for a church, quiet, secluded, and set in nature. Depending on different sources, the current church itself dates back to either the 12th or 13th century. Surrounded by a gorgeous garden and cemetery area, the inside clearly reflects the medieval era in which it was constructed, with a Norman-style porch, a round arch doorway, and this Gothic-style arch, as well as beautiful, intricate exposed wooden beams. The bits of medieval stained glass in the 12th century lancet windows depict the martyrdom of Thomas Becket, according to online sources. By the way, my sources and notes will be down in the description below. In the corner, there is a little nook for organization, paralleling a piano, or some key instrument. I'm not exactly sure what it is, because I didn't investigate too much on it, but if you know, let me know. Lined with wooden pews, the back of the church features a large stone basin in which our host was baptized. The modest white walls feature ornately carved signs of wood and stone, with the occasional icon or adornment set atop windowsills and shelves. Being in this church truly felt like stepping into a gap in time. The stone floors bore inscriptions of those buried here. I decided to test out the acoustics with one verse of a song I knew that felt fit for the place. I absolutely loved walking around the inside and seeing all of the individual details that felt so personal, historic, and unique to the church itself. Though it was a warm day, the stone floors kept the church cool. As I walked, it was strange to imagine that some of my family was buried beneath the stones just below my feet. There was a book to sign your name and write a little note if you visited, so I did make an entry. Also, there was a book here in the entranceway/exitway, which I thought had been maybe left for children to read at the church, but apparently The Princess Who Hid in the Tree was written by a cathedral education officer at Christ Church, and the church used to give readings to children before the pandemic. The book itself was inspired by Saint Frideswide, apparently, who I will talk about later. Now we are heading out back to the historic Treacle Well. Descending a few steps into the earth, this 12th century well was taken down in 1639, but restored in 1874. The site is one of the original monasteries of Saint Frideswide, the patron saint of Oxford. Although there are slight alterations between the versions I have read, the general story goes that in the 7th century, Frideswide, who had sworn to celibacy, was pursued by King Algar of Mercia, so she hid in Binsey. While searching for her, he was struck blind by lightning, but through her goodness, Frideswide prayed for his recovery, and a spring appeared where the waters restored his sight. When I was doing this voiceover today, I was actually about to go to the library to see if they had a copy of this book that I could read. I did find a YouTube video of the author herself reading it, and I will link it down below, and I highly recommend watching it because it is a really lovely book actually, and I very thoroughly enjoyed it. The story is slightly different than my research on Frideswide, but then again, it is a myth, and so I'm sure there are different versions. But I really enjoyed the story, and the illustrations were beautiful, and it was very entertaining, and it was a great book, so I would absolutely recommend going and watching her read that. Since then, it was said that the waters had holy healing properties, and people would pilgrimage for miles and miles, including King Henry VIII, who allegedly had Catherine of Aragon drink from it, in hopes of increasing her fertility to bear him a son. Another call to fame this well has is that it served as an inspiration for Chapter 7 of Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, A Mad Tea Party by Lewis Carroll. The Dormouse tells the tale of 3 sisters who live at the bottom of a treacle well living on treacle. Apparently it wasn't called the Treacle Well until almost 100 years after Lewis Carroll's book came out. One of the sources I read said that in medieval times, treacle referred to a healing fluid. While I was skeptical to take a big drink, I did have a drop from my fingers which I dipped into the well past the algae layer. My brother and mother, however, actually drank some. Coins lay in the back of the well as well as inside. Our relative very kindly gave both my brother and I a coin to put in as well. I only noticed afterwards that a spider rested in the crook of the stone arch, perhaps the guardian of the well. It didn't bother me, though, so I'd like to think I had its approval. Surrounded by stone and underground, it was also a bit cooler down there as well. Overall, this site, the church, well, and grounds is such a beautiful and peaceful place, and thank you so much to those who maintain it. By the way, most of these history facts I learned during my research for this voiceover are relative related to the tale of Frideswide and King Henry VIII, but otherwise I did not know much else. So, with this knowledge, I do hope to come back someday and spend a much longer time there. Even as we were leaving, we were seeing details on the church we hadn't noticed before, pointed out by another visitor. Also, if any of my facts are wrong, please let me know because I read several articles and each of them had their own details or sometimes their facts were a little different, so I just chose to put some in the script. But if some of them are wrong, let me know please because I want to be accurate. Thank you. Thank you so much for watching, and that's all for today. I hope to see you in the next video. In the next part of the UK adventure, we are heading over to a place not too far from Binsey that is a much more well-known spot.